Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, June 11th. I'm Benit Brach here in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Here's what's happening this afternoon. Well, Squamish is keeping its local state of emergency in place as crews battle the out-of-control Dryden Creek wildfire northeast of the district. The mayor says an evacuation alert for around 200 households is also still in place and is asking people to be prepared to leave quickly if need be. Fire officials say the blaze has grown to more than 22 hectares, but that this growth was expected.
Happy to report that there was minimal growth overnight. Winds are blowing south-southeast, which works in our favor. The District of Squamish, Squamish Nation, BC Wildfire Service are working collaboratively on this incident.
So this fire, it's burning in steep terrain on the east side of the Sea to Sky Highway near Brackendale. Squamish has now imposed a full campfire ban as well. The fire is believed to be human-caused and still very smoky in that area. And Vancouver City Council has given the go-ahead to redevelop a large parcel of land near commercial Broadway SkyTrain station. So these buildings would be where Safeway and this parking lot is today. The development is set to add more than 1,000 housing units across 3 towers. So you can see in this rendering. The towers would be anywhere from 36 to 43 stories high. The vote was 8-1.
This neighbourhood, like all of the City of Vancouver, is sadly already not affordable to many people, and we heard from speakers who've already been priced out of this neighbourhood. I don't want to see this site remain undeveloped for another 10 or 20 years. I want to see a surface car park replaced with over 1,000 homes.
The vote came after a marathon public hearing that saw over 100 people who lined up to speak to City Council. It's been quite a controversial project in the past, and critics now still say that they're concerned the tall towers will lead to inflated property values in the area and that they won't be affordable for most people. So it was Councillor Pete Fry who abstained, and then Councillor Sean Orr was the only one to vote no. Vancouver is officially 1 year away from the FIFA World Cup. We're also expecting an update today from the city, looking ahead at Vancouver hosting. Vancouver will be hosting 7 matches next year, and this will be a continent-wide tournament with matches held in Mexico and the U.S. as well, and Toronto as well. And fans will cheer on teams at BC Place, which holds 54,000 people. The city is expected to see an additional 900,000 visitors during the World Cup. So it's going to be very busy here. Preliminary estimates released by the city suggest the tournament could generate more than $1 billion a year leading up to the games and then 5 years after that. Okay, and if you are a fan of zipping on Lime scooters, well, now you can rent and ride them in Vancouver's downtown core. The city says starting today, there will be 28 new custom-designed parking stations where the scooters can be left. The mayor says it'll help keep the sidewalks clean and safe.
If anyone's, used a Lime scooter elsewhere on the planet, and they're super cool, by the way, it's not a knock, but you'll notice that there aren't docking stations and they end up in different areas. This is unique to Vancouver, and we are showing how things can be done and done really well for the rest of the world.
Sims says the expansion of the e-scooter program and the custom docking stations, they were a result of direct feedback that the city got from businesses and residents too. The city says the expansion is coming in at no extra cost to taxpayers. And that's what we have for you so far. I'm Benit Brach. You're watching CBC News BC. Coming up next is BC Today.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Squamish residents are watching that Dryden Creek wildfire very closely. It is cause for concern due to its proximity to structures and homes. It's also thought to be human caused. So what are the lessons BC should learn from previous wildfire seasons? We'll talk to wildfire expert Lori Daniels and take your calls. Plus, bad news for summer job seekers. BC has the second highest unemployment rate in Canada for youth between 15 and 24. How has that affected you or your child? That's after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Well, here is the latest on that Dryden Creek wildfire that's caused a state of local emergency in Squamish. The fire burning east of the Sea to Sky Highway in Brackendale did see some growth overnight. It's now more than 20 hectares. It is considered out of control. So far, no damage to homes or structures, but an evacuation alert remains. Amber Cowie is a Squamish resident, and she spoke with the CBC this morning.
Fire started late afternoon on Monday, and since then, everyone in the town has been living in a state of unease. It's hard to describe the anxiety that happens when there is a fire burning in a visible range of the houses, schools, and community that you love. The fire is really visible from most places in Squamish. It's kind of like living beside an erupting volcano.
Have you ever had to experience something like this before that you can see, as you mentioned, sort of right out your window?
I'm from British Columbia, so yes, I've lived through not just being on the precipice of evacuation like we are now, but actually being fully evacuated. I was a tree planter in a small town that I grew up in called Clearwater in 2003, which was a horrific wildfire season in our province. And I came down from work, I had 30 minutes to get everything that I possibly could carry in my very beat up old Ford Bronco with my dad and my stepmom. And we had to flee this area that we loved, driving through big black crazy smoke with almost everyone we knew from Clearwater in this really weird convoy. And we ended up having to stay at friends and families for many days, not knowing if our homes were burning.
That is Amber Cowie, a Squamish resident. Now, outside Squamish, the majority of the wildfire concern sits in the northeastern part of the province, which continues to see hot and dry conditions. BC wildfire crews worked overnight on the Summit Lake wildfire north of Fort Nelson, and along the Highway 97 corridor, the smoke from the wildfire has reduced visibility along the road. Meanwhile, the Kiskatinaw River wildfire along the border with Alberta also causing smoke, as well shifting winds are affecting the firefighting efforts there. And the third fire of note there, the massive Pocket Knife Creek wildfire continues to burn out of control south of Fort Nelson at over 1,500 square kilometers. They believe that some relief could be in sight as the wildfire services there is potential rain in the forecast Thursday through Sunday. The province says things are pointing to an active wildfire season in BC this year. So we're asking you, what are the lessons BC needs to learn from previous wildfire seasons? 2023, 2024, 2017, 2018, right? We've had a few already. So what are the lessons that we can learn? And what can be done to prevent human-caused wildfires? If anything, you can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca, and welcome to people watching us live on TikTok. You can leave your comments there as well. Lori Daniels is Kerner Chair in Wildfire Coexistence at UBC's Faculty of Forestry, and we have reached her actually out in the field in the West Kootenay near the village of Slocan. Hi, Lori. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you today?
I am fine. Thank you so much for making the time for us. Can you tell us about where you are and what you're doing there?
Yeah, so I'm here in the Slocan Valley, and we are out in the fields on sites that burned during the wildfires last summer. We are doing assessments of the fire severity and then looking for signs of post-fire recovery. And this is a collaboration with the Community Forest, CIFCO, and BC Wildfire to also understand how effective the fuels treatments were in this region. CIFCO, the Community Forest, had done a lot of proactive forest management in and around neighborhoods and communities prior to the fires. And so we're here measuring their effectiveness and looking for evidence of how they changed fire behavior and created that defensible space that prevented the homes and communities from burning here in the valley.
What can you tell us about what you're learning so far?
Well, we're definitely seeing that in the places where there had been treatments and we had reduced the density of the trees and cleaned up some of the fuels down on the ground, we're seeing that in those areas, the fire often burned at lower intensity. It's scarring the trees, but the char on the heights of the trees is low. It's less than 2 meters, and the trees still have green tops and are surviving even though the ground burned. In the areas where there were fewer treatments or less intensive treatments, we are seeing that there was much more char. The char goes right up into the crowns of the trees, and many of the trees burned and died.
Would you say that these are the kinds of things that have been implemented since previous wildfire seasons? And you've been watching this really. I remember talking to you way back, almost a decade ago.
Yes. So we learned, we were talking a few moments ago about the 2003 fire season, firestorm. The provincial review that came out after that really advocated for these proactive fuels treatments, identifying the places around the province, the communities that had high fuel loads around them, and proactively managing those forests. So thinning from below, leaving the big canopy trees in place to create shade and protection for the forest floor. But reducing the fuel load so that we would see less impact from wildfire. And we're seeing successes. Not always. This is kind of like buying insurance. It reduces the impact of the fire. It creates defensible space. It reduces the chance of homes and communities burning. Never a guarantee. And we're finding with extreme fire weather, we can still breach through these treated areas. But we've also had tremendous successes. Those successes are here in the Slocan Valley, in places like Logan Lake, and even in West Kelowna, where we saved a lot of homes by having those treatments in place back in 2003.
Oh, certainly people have had experience in West Kelowna. It's so interesting to me to see the thin brush behind you there, Lori, as we're talking to you in the Slocan Valley. So what goes through your mind hearing that, okay, here we are, 2025. We are looking at another active wildfire season. I'm going to put the phone numbers out once again, asking people what are the lessons that you think we need to learn. If you've been affected by wildfire, we heard from the Squamish resident who said she was in Clearwater and had to evacuate a few years ago. So if you've experienced an evacuation or lived near wildfire, being affected somehow, what are the lessons that BC has learned or needs to learn? You can give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And if you're watching us on TikTok Live, certainly leave your comment or your question there. Lori Daniels has been on the front lines of this really for many years, studying wildfire preparedness and forest behavior. So, Lori, hearing that we are heading into an active fire season, all signs point to that. What goes through your mind then?
Well, now is the time for all of us to kind of think about those fire smart principles. We are seeing up in the Northeast very active fires and a lot of smoke. And as I was driving out to the Slocan Valley, I was watching the whole way across the province, temperatures in the mid to high 30s this week, and fire danger creeping up. So thinking about what do we need to do to be fire smart in our own homes, making sure roof lines are clear of burnable debris like leaves and needles, cleaning up that 1.5 meter space right around our yards, and thinking about how do we protect our homes in the case of wildfire. Really great advice coming from BC Wildfire and Emergency Services. Get your grab and go bag ready. Make sure that you've got it prepared to go, and be paying attention to evacuation alerts and orders. And then the last I'll add is all of us need to be so careful when we are outside enjoying our beautiful province, camping and recreating and using all these trails that and parks that are so valuable to us.
There's that. And Squamish is a place where so much of that recreating happens. There is this suspicion that the Dryden Creek wildfire is human caused. What does that mean exactly?
So human-caused fires are fires that came from a non-natural system or non-natural source. So lightning would be our primary natural source of fire here in BC, and other fires are started by people. It could be recreational activity, ATVs, campfires that are left unintended or not properly extinguished at the end of a camping trip. It could be debris that was left in the forest that acts like a magnifier and actually starts. So littering and garbage in the forest can be a contributing factor. It could also be industrial activities. Although we know that industrial activities are controlled and restricted when fire danger becomes high enough, people are not allowed to be out in the forest, actually working in jobs that could create a spark or could potentially start a fire.
On that note, why do we still see human-caused fires? So there are penalties, right? So for anyone found in contravention of a BC Wildfire Service prohibition, you may be issued a ticket for more than $1,100 or a penalty up to $100,000, even sentenced for up to 1 year in prison. But Ravi Parmar, the forest minister, said the other day, we believe that about 70% of the wildfires so far are human-caused. Why does this keep happening?
Yeah, so in the spring, so our weather systems by July and August, we get those big thunderheads that build up in the afternoon and kind of spark lightning in the late afternoon and into the evenings. And so the weather system by the end of the summer really is generating that lightning. At this time of year, however, in the spring, we don't have the same weather systems. So the majority of fires in the spring, in May, June, in British Columbia and across Canada are actually human ignitions. Now think about where are we, where are people interacting with the forest? Well, in and around our communities, on trails, in recreational areas, right near our homes. So it not only means that there's many people out in the woods, and a subset of the people might be starting fires, those fires that are human caused are often the ones that have the greatest impact on our homes. They're in the wildland-urban interface. So the majority of fires that happen in that wildland interface zone within 2 kilometers of homes and neighborhoods are human caused.
Oh, it goes through your mind when you think of that, Lori. As someone who, you're there studying the aftermath of a wildfire season.
Well, here I am, out in the forest. We know that last year, 1 million hectares burned, 2023, 2.8 million hectares burned. Overall in BC in the last 8 years alone, we have burned over 7.2 million hectares. That's 2.5 times the size of Vancouver Island in wildfires. And about half of those were started by people. So thinking about the impacts of human ignitions and thinking about the losses in communities and neighborhoods when people lose their homes and neighborhoods, the onus really is on all of us to be better informed, better prepared, and take that responsibility while we're out enjoying British Columbia.
This is BC Today. My guest is Lori Daniels, who is the Kerner Chair in Wildfire Coexistence at UBC's Faculty of Forestry. And we are asking you, what are the lessons BC needs to learn from previous wildfire seasons as we head into another summer where active wildfire activity is expected? And what can be done to prevent human-caused wildfire? 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733, or just at pound 690 on your phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And on TikTok, you can comment on our TikTok live right now as well. Pose your comments and your questions to Lori. We have an email here from Deborah who writes, "It's beyond my comprehension to understand why they've not banned campfires or anything burning in the backcountry weeks ago. We have known about fire hazards for many years and for weeks this season. I do not understand why campers and hikers cannot fathom the risks that their apparently beloved fires present. Satisfactory outdoor experiences can easily be had without actual fires. Please, people, stop demanding your, quote, right to campfires, and those in charge, please implement an immediate fire ban earlier next year." Deborah, thank you very much for your comment. BC Today at cbc.ca. Let's head to Lake Country now, and Sharon is on the line about fire hazard and the risk of wildfire. Hi, Sharon.
Hi there. My bee in my bonnet has been for years. I was born and raised in this area and was away for a long time, but came back a few years ago. The amount of cedar hedges in the Okanagan, not native to it, they are fire torches. It's on the list of Fire Smart information to get rid of them. And people are just reluctant. But not only people, our city hall here, I spoke to them 2 years ago. They are surrounded, the city hall and the library, and right across our big high school, Jehovah's Witness hall right next door. They're all surrounded by a tall, mature cedar hedge. And I don't know. They said that they were going to cut them down. Nobody has. They need to have incentives. I know it's expensive, but give them incentives to do that, and do not put on any permits of new development that can be used as part of their landscaping. They are not native. BC Gardner has talked to them about this for years. And I just find that so aggravating that we can't, because I will just say one more thing. When we had the wildfire here just a few years ago on the west side of the lake, that fire sent a big branch, flaming branch, across the lake, over the hill, and landed here on the south end of Wood Lake in my friend's yard right beside her cedar hedge. That's how dangerous it is because of the weather patterns that happen during those wildfires.
Oh, Sharon, thank you very much for raising that. And you're right. So I was thinking about this the other day, Lori, as I was walking through, a park in Vancouver, looking at the kinds of trees and the broad leaves. And I was thinking about what are the most, fire safe types of trees and bushes that people should be thinking about. So what goes through your mind hearing her frustration there around the amount of cedar hedges?
Cedar hedges, and also in the interior, a lot of people landscape with juniper. So both of them are highly flammable. And you can think of plants that are very aromatic, that have those we kind of think of them as the pine scent that comes off of them. Those are actually the terpenes. Those are chemicals within the foliage and the fine branches of that vegetation that makes it highly flammable. So Fire Smart also gives great advice about avoiding those types of plants, and gives advice about broadleaf native shrubs and herbs that can be used in our gardens as substitutes that can provide shade, that are beautiful for landscaping, and are more fire resistant. So I strongly recommend. Our native trees, depending on what part of the province you're in, are adapted to fire in different ways, but again, reducing their density, pruning some of the lower branches. And then if you have trees near your home, creating shade, which can be a benefit because of climate change and heat and drought. We also want to make sure we trim the branches so they're not hanging right over your eavesdropping and right over your roof, and potentially contributing to a fire hazard.
And would that be incentives, or how motivated are municipalities to make those kinds of changes?
So many municipalities have good rules for new builds, and as new neighborhoods are being developed and new houses are being built, it's a little bit harder to have this requirement kind of retroactively. So I would simply recommend to every homeowner, get onto that Fire Smart BC website. It has fantastic advice of things that you can do. It became our family project during COVID. My kids and I fire smarted our house and spent a lot of time cleaning up our yard, reconfiguring our gardens to include rocks and fire smart plants. And so it's doable. It's a little bit of work, but it doesn't even, there's lots of things that we could be doing. Everybody could be doing this weekend. One step in the right direction. Second step next weekend, and make yourself much more fire smart.
Yeah, make it a project. Thanks so much for that call. Alexis is next. Let's go to the Slocan Valley now. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, how's it going?
Very well. Thanks so much.
Okay.
You're in the vicinity of our guest here, Lori Daniels, and you're a former wildfire fighter as well.
Yes, I am, and so is my partner. He was DSF for many years, and he was actually on the 2003 Kelowna fire, where they started to deploy backburning as a method of controlling fire. That is a misnomer. You can't control fire. And the ministry needs to get that in their heads. We need to quit backburning. You can't control a burn in these weather conditions. We need to bring back water bombers. I was on the Penticton fire And they use the Martin Mars, which of course we no longer have. Martin Mars puts out fires. Water bombers put out fires. Last year, the Ponderosa fire, the Spokane complex, 5 water bombers flew over when it was just smoldering. I could see it directly from my driveway, although I'm 20 kilometers away. And the water bombers did not drop one drop of water on that fire. They just flew around and left. Helicopters are very inefficient and very, very expensive. We need to deploy, hit it hard and hit it fast, like we used to do in the 80s and the 90s. The ministry has been telling us since 2016 that we've been putting out fires too well. Well, we need to go back to that model because we're in a drought situation across Canada, and we need to deploy, hit it hard, hit it fast. We need to reinstate unit crews in key areas. We need to restore initial attack, and we need to quit having the ministry make work projects. The Trozo Creek fire was out on day 2, and yet they backburned 39 times, burning 33,000 liters of fuel to burn that fire. They went 2 valleys away from Trozo to try to make it a massive fire. They wanted to shut the valley down. We need to quit having these people who want to have a project fire. And I can tell you that the ministry has ended up at many different fires where it's a very small fire that could be put out by a few people, and yet they chose to not touch it and create a project
Alexis,
fire.
thank you so much for the call. Really important to hear from you as a former wildfire fighter. I'm going to get some thoughts from Lori Daniels in a moment, in about a couple of minutes from now, to that call for more water bombers instead. And Lori, I'm just going to pause with you one moment because I want to make sure everybody gets your answer and your thoughts on that. We are in a TV commercial break right now, and I want everybody to hear your response. We are getting a lot of emails, though, on this as well. Heather writes from Nelson, every year we hear of devastating wildfires occurring because of human activity in the forest. The province needs to act much sooner with shutting down campfires, not only in provincial parks, but anywhere in the forest. Penalties need to be more severe. Access to forest roads need to be taken away. ATV activity needs to be restricted. In a nutshell, we cannot be responsible in the forest. Remove all human triggers. We need to act sooner with more force. I can see campfires becoming a thing of the past. Another email here from Anne. I totally understand the emphasis on fire prevention and preparedness, but it's really hard to listen to all this at the same time as our governments, provincial and federal, are proposing more fossil fuel projects, including oil pipelines and LNG projects. This is the ultimate human cause of the increase in these fires. Thank you so much. And Bill in North Saanich, I recall working in the woods for Macmillan Blodell. They had dozens of fire trucks and trained crews in firefighting every year. They had fire watch helicopters fly all the tree farms every night and created flying tankers, yes, called the Martin Mars bombers. Thank you so much as well. Really good to hear from your experience as another employee as well in forestry. BC Today at cbc.ca for more of your thoughts. This is BC Today here on CBC. We are talking about lessons to be learned when it comes to fighting wildfires and addressing wildfire season. Lori Daniels is with me. And Lori, what are your thoughts on the comments that we heard from the former firefighter there?
Yeah, so I hear people's frustration, and we are running into problems where we are getting multiple ignitions across all of the province at the same time. And so when we have fire seasons like the 2023 or 2021, 2018, 2017 fire season, where so much of the province is under very high to extreme fire danger, when fires ignite, there has to be kind of a triage, a prioritization of those fires. Which ones can they get to? Can firefighters get to effectively? and quickly, and which ones unfortunately have to wait. And so this is becoming more and more challenging as we are seeing the number of fires, upwards of 60 fires of note simultaneously in the 2018 fire season, as an example. So we are having to come up with new strategies and techniques. There have been good recommendations that have come out of some of the provincial reviews. Investment in local communities. There was a call for more firefighters and more equipment to get more trained crews at the local level. Certainly that will help where we have more type 1, type 2, type 3. So provincial government employees directly, but also contract crews, professional forest professionals and wildland firefighters distributed around the province who can also be contracted to BC Wildfire and contribute if there's fires in their local areas. Kind of using that local knowledge can really benefit. Clearly, people in rural and remote communities know their ecosystems best and can really make an important contribution when it comes to fires in their local vicinities.
Laura, it's really great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
You're welcome. I hope everybody will be safe, and best wishes to those in the Northeast and the Southwest who are all being affected by fire today.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's Lori Daniels, Kerner Chair in Wildfire Coexistence at UBC's Faculty of Forestry. And she joined us from the Slocan Valley, doing some work there, learning from last year's wildfire. It is now 12:32. This is BC Today here on CBC. I'm Michelle Elliott. Thanks for joining us. We are live on Radio 1, as well as on CBC Television, live streaming as well on the CBC News app and on YouTube. And we are live on TikTok, so do send us your thoughts there too. Coming up in our next half hour, we're going to talk about youth unemployment. It is a particularly bad year, a dire year for those who are seeking jobs this summer. So we're going to ask you, are you affected? And what are some things that can help youth find work? Give us a call, and you can comment as well on all our platforms. And that's all coming up after the CBC News Update with Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The fire chief in Squamish says debris from a nearby wildfire is rolling down steep hillsides as crews try to fight the blaze. Aaron Foote says the out-of-control fire has come within 40 meters of some homes. The fire has almost tripled in size since yesterday at 20 hectares. About 200 properties are under evacuation alert. A $750 million liquefied propane gas export facility in Prince Rupert is moving ahead. Trigon Pacific Terminals says the proposal has the support of nearby First Nations and meets Ottawa's recently identified criteria for shifting away from U.S. markets. If all goes according to plan, Trigon expects the project to start exports to Asia in about 4 years. And the city of Burnaby says it will be formally apologizing for the historic discrimination against people of Chinese descent at an event later this year. It says the decision was made after a community consultation process. The city says that process underscored the importance of acknowledging the hardships faced by early Chinese settlers. And now the forecast on the north coast, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with a high of 14, highs up to 19 with widespread smoke in the Peace. In the central interior, increasing cloudiness with local smoke and a high of 24. Highs up to 31 with some sunshine and a chance of showers in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, increasing cloudiness with a high of 33. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with highs in the low 20s. That's your CBC News Update from Vancouver.
Thanks very much, Rob. That is Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Welcome back. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott. Very nice to be with you live on CBC Radio, CBC Television, live streaming on YouTube and our CBC News app, as well as live on TikTok. Welcome to you watching us. And on radio, of course, a lot more on today's top stories coming up on the afternoon shows in your region. In Metro Vancouver, here is what's coming up on the Coast.
Hi, Michelle. It's Amy Bell sitting in once again for Gloria Makarenko here on the coast. Coming up on our show this afternoon, we're going to look at the issue of children who may go hungry this summer. The issue being that when they're in the school, they have access to certain foods such as breakfast or snacks throughout the school year. But in the summer months, without that, a lot of their families are anxious about what could happen. We're going to check in with Food Banks of Surrey to see what their concerns are and what you could do to help. We're also going to look at a new study out of SFU that proposes 6 new strategies that could really change how we approach wildfire season here in BC. On the coast, coming up on the air starting at 3 o'clock, and I hope you'll be listening.
We sure will, Amy. Yes, wildfires certainly top of mind. Yesterday on the show here in BC Today, we talked about music programs, some of them at risk or have been cut as a result of tight school budgets. And we asked you for the value. What do you think is the value of music programs? Yaja in Burnaby writes, let's talk more often about the role of art and music in schools. It is so important in the development of young people. It expands their emotional, creative lives, takes them away from tablets, phones, and video games. Nova writes, music education is a vital part of education for children, allowing them to explore different genres of music. Thank you so much, BC Today at cbc.ca. $12:37 now. Well, the summer job hunt promises to be a tough one for young people. They are entering one of the worst youth labor markets seen in decades. Canada currently facing the highest youth unemployment rate in about a quarter century. And in May, BC recorded the second worst numbers in the country, just second behind Alberta. We are talking about people between the ages of 15 and 24 years old. So we're asking you, how has the job hunt been going for you or your child? And what can be done to support young people in the job market right now? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or comment on our TikTok Live. Now, when you think about summer jobs, certainly the P&E comes to mind, and we're joined now by Laura Ballance, who is a spokesperson for P&E. It is the largest youth employer in the province. Laura, thanks so much for being with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
What are you hearing about what the job market is like right now for young people?
Well, the P&E is a place that generally has a wide variety of job categories, whether you are looking for full-time, part-time, seasonal, fair time work. We have a really diverse set of offerings of types of events that happen on our site. Right now, we're just in the process of hiring for our best known entity, which is our annual summer fair.
Right.
This year, we'll be hiring about 800 positions. That'll be seasonal positions for the fair. It's interesting. I will say that the P&E, we're always proud. We think that we have very strong employee education programs. We are a fun place to work, and we train people well to set them up for that next job. And for many decades, the P&E has considered itself a leader in creating an environment where people that are looking for their first job, maybe their first job in Canada, can come and get some important skills, get some good training, and maybe move on then to that second and then ultimately third for their career. And so
absolutely,
we've considered that an important part of our role in the Lower Mainland and in the province.
So what does what does this year look like? I mean, when you say 800 positions, how does that compare to previous years?
Well, I will say that the number of positions is probably a little lower, only because we do have a high percentage of folks returning this year. We all, myself, I started at the P&E in the 90s on a 2-month contract. So there's a component of our team that you fall in love with the place, you fall in love with the history and the feeling of working at P&E and that collective history of the province. There's other people that like to return year over year because of the diversity of jobs. You can start in the food and beverage area, then you can move to security or guest experience, and you can really round out your resume with a number of different skill sets that you can acquire.
So what are you hearing from young people then when it comes to this job market? And what goes through your mind when you hear that BC has the second lowest, I think it was 16% when it comes to unemployment in May?
That's very unfortunate because I know, so many youth are looking to do things like, raise money to fund their university and post-secondary pursuits and things like that. And it is sad if there is young people that are willing to work, or anyone, but if for the purposes of this, we're talking about youth that are looking for a job and simply can't find it. I will say that this year we have about 800 entry or openings, and we have had over 5,500 people apply for those 800 jobs, which is a very low response and probably an indication of the statistics that you are quoting here.
Yeah. Have you seen at the PNE any impact from some of the factors that they're saying are contributing to this slowing economy that started last year? Uncertainty from the trade and tariff war with the United States. Are you seeing any impact from that at the fair?
I think what we will see and what we've traditionally seen at the PNE is people getting that second job, or they'll work for the summer to augment their year-round revenue. Teachers, folks like that need that little bit extra. And in previous years, my colleagues and folks that I would talk to, maybe that's they'll work for the 3 years they worked at the PNE back in university or high school, and they continue on because of the tradition and the family atmosphere. But now today, maybe it funds car payments, or it funds a family vacation or other things like that. And I think what we're seeing is with the tightening economy, more people are being forced to look at ways to augment existing income. And I think youth in particular are looking for ways to be able to afford the things that youth want in these day and age that maybe mom and dad can't purchase at this time. So, the reasons for working are vast. I think we get everything from folks that know that the PNE is a recognized employer and therefore looks good on a college application. The diversity of skill training from cash handling to guest services, the atmosphere of working with large numbers of young people from across the Lower Mainland. I think all of those things appeal, and but we will see. The PNE also, and I'll just take a quick thing to say, the PNE traditionally has had a view that we are a first job employer. We do not require previous experience to get experience. So that's always been a large differentiator for us, because so many people, they go and they apply at a convenience store or at a fast food restaurant and they're told, well, you don't have any experience. And then they got caught in the cycle. The PNE as a not-for-profit has always taken the position that if you have a good attitude and a willingness to work, we'll find you a spot if possible, and we'll give you that first job training so you can go out and get that second job. So
let me just take a call here, Laura. Laura Ballance is my guest, who is spokesperson for the PNE, the largest youth employer in the province. And this, as we look at a summer ahead where it may be harder for young people ages 15 to 24 to find work, this generation facing higher unemployment rates in decades. And BC falls just behind Alberta when it comes to the worst unemployment rate in the country for young people. So we're asking you, have you been affected? Has your child been affected? What is that summer job hunt like right now? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. You can comment on our TikTok live as well. Darwin is calling us now from Terrace. Hi, Darwin, welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
I am fine. Yeah, what are you observing?
I've noticed it over the past several years with the international student boom. My partner, her younger brother, he had a friend that was working at Tim Hortons for many years after school. He graduated recently, and unfortunately they stopped scheduling his shifts. With this international student boom, you're seeing some of these international students, of course, they need to make a living as well. So they are kind of more of these entry-level jobs per se, like Tim Hortons, McDonald's. And it kind of coincides with the same schedule as our youth, right? 15 to 24.
Right.
They're either in school, so the after-school hour shifts are being taken up now, and then you have the summers off. So same thing, right? The college is kind of the same schedule as our high school students. So there's less availability due to a higher number of candidates, I would say, entry level.
Yeah. For those jobs, and that is something that came up last summer as well, as they looked at again a tight job market for young people. And so, as we know, this year the federal government plans to issue 10% fewer international study permits for international students, and that's in the face of that kind of criticism when it comes to pressure on healthcare systems, on education systems, and on jobs. So Darwin, you said that your partner's younger brother or the friend is still looking for work now. Then,
yeah, he's found a job with one of the local restaurants in town, fortunately. Just a little small mom and pop pizza place, and he's been doing pretty okay there. Yeah, it was unfortunate because they didn't actually let him go. They just kind of stopped scheduling him.
Right. Yeah. Well, thankfully, good to know that he's got a job now. Thank you so much for the call, Darwin. All the best to you, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. That's Darwin and Terrace. Wendy now in Prince Rupert. Hi, Wendy.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I am fine. Thanks so much for calling.
Well, thanks for having this on. It's kind of funny because long ago when I lived in Ottawa, I was last year high school maybe, I went and worked at a carnival. I forget the name of it, the Ottawa something or other. But anyway.
Right. The counterpart to the P&E. Yeah.
That's right. And oh boy, I learned a lot. I worked there most of the summer. And then at the end of the summer, my girlfriend and I joined it and traveled all over the east coast of Canada. It was an incredible experience. The other thing I'd like to add is that as I'm pulling out weeds, I think in a young person that would like to garden, in your neighborhood or someplace that looks overgrown or whatever.
Sure.
It probably wouldn't be, high wage, but it would get you started somewhere.
Wow. That's what we're looking at. Yeah, entry-level positions. Wendy, thank you so much for going down memory lane with us. Yeah, I hope there aren't too many more weeds for you to go through.
Oh, it's been a rainy spring, so there are many.
Sadly. Wendy, thanks so much for the call. And I am seeing more of that sort of entrepreneurial spirit among young people as well. I know young people are doing things like power washing and perhaps more of that gardening. Laura Ballance, she talked there about the skills that she learned, the experiences. Can you tell us more about what are I know you said you don't need experience for a job at the P&E, but what are the things that you do look for when you are hiring? I mean, you're looking at 5,500 applicants for 800 positions.
Yeah, I think it's an enthusiasm, an excitement, a willingness to work as a team. I think, and to your last caller's point, I think there is a spirit of entrepreneurialism that has been inspired in young people that is likely at unprecedented levels. The Facebook marketplace bakers, the pet care sitters, the lawn care youth that are able to bring in a certain amount of money by being entrepreneurs. And I think there's an amazing skill set with that. But I do think there's a large percentage of the population that wants a more traditional job to show that they, their work ethic and that in order to apply for that next job. And so I think that At the P&E, we are really looking for people. If you have had past experience in a reference, that's great. But also, a lot of it really comes down to personality and can you work in a large team? Can you deal with high volumes in the case of our fair of guests asking a lot of questions? What is your ability, whether you're working in the food and beverage department, making candy floss or operating a ride, or actually working in guest service, to interact with our guests that come from across BC and beyond to visit the fair each year.
Let's go through more of your comments now. Again, our phone number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca, live on TikTok as well. Let us know, too, if you have some of that advice, right? What you think young people should be thinking about as they apply for work heading into the summer job season. We have some emails here now. Hugh writes, so many young people are unemployed is no surprise when there has been a 40-year trend to remove practical skills from the secondary curriculum. People come out of school ready to write poetry or use Photoshop, but lack basic safety training in the use of tools. Thank you for that. We are going to talk about the trades tomorrow on the program, in fact, and what you need to know if you're pursuing a career in the trades. Joanne writes, in Victoria, perhaps with a reduction of temporary foreign workers, young high school students will find employment in retail, fast food, and tourism. For years, we don't see young people working in these industries. It's so important for young people to get work experience. This was a criticism during Trudeau's immigration policies of temporary workers, students having rules relaxed, which virtually shut out students looking to make summer income and experience. And we have a comment on TikTok from Schmitten, who writes, get rid of the temporary foreign worker program. And this is because all those jobs are taken by temporary foreign workers. So that goes to the criticism that Joanne was touching on. And so in 2024, Canada did introduce changes to that temporary foreign worker program, including a 10% cap on low-wage positions filled by TFWs in most sectors. And that applies to the total number of low-wage positions being held by temporary foreign workers as a proportion of the overall workforce at a specific site. The exceptions would be things like healthcare, construction, and food processing, which may be allowed up to 20%. Okay, thanks so much for that. BC Today at cbc.ca once again. And so, Laura, if we're looking at, yes, a tighter job market, what can young people be thinking about in terms of making themselves more competitive, perhaps not just for those entry-level jobs, but further along in their careers?
Yeah, so I think, when it comes to the case of the P&E, I think showing your enthusiasm, showing your knowledge of in this case, the fair or the P&E or Hastings Park, showing your willingness to accept. You might have applied for a guest experience job, but maybe that department's full, but we have something in exhibit space, and that willingness to be flexible to take on an opportunity in a different department. We have a large number of departments, and I think in the case of the P&E, we also have a lot of opportunities. So you may apply for a part-time job. Maybe you end up getting a seasonal job or a fair-time job, but often that'll turn into a larger opportunity, and maybe you might have to start in one area. I'll tell you a fun little trivia thing. Many years ago, a reporter was doing a story on kind of the best and the worst jobs at the P&E. And he asked me, he said, what do you think is the best job at the P&E? And I thought about it, and I said, probably prize home lottery vendor, because they make a base salary plus commission. So a lot of our university students really want that job because they have the ability in 15 days to earn quite a bit of money. And I should say the P&E is a fully unionized site. So all of our jobs actually start above minimum wage. And so we do pay well and have a lot of extra benefits and perks to employment there. But then the question was, what's the worst job? And I said, well, I would think barn sweeper, because you're cleaning up after the animals all day.
Fair, yeah.
But let me check. So I actually went down to the barn and I started talking to a lot of the young people. And what I found was the exact opposite, that it is actually one of our most coveted positions, particularly for urban youth who don't get the experience or the opportunity to be around the animals like maybe some of our more rural employees do. And so they actually consider it, and it's one of the most desirable jobs we have, is to be a barn worker because of that ability to be around the cows and the horses and all the other animals.
Sure.
At the fair.
Yes, I have enjoyed visiting that area, but I'm always glad that when I'm about to go as well. But it's an interesting point because we were talking earlier about agriculture jobs and what that means for young people. It's another sector that young people tend to work in, especially during the summer months. Laura, great to have you. All the best with the Peony this year.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. We hope to see you and all your listeners out at the fair.
That's Laura Ballance, spokesperson for the Peony. It's 12:56 now. This is BC Today, and let's get to some sad news from the music world today. The Beach Boys' Brian Wilson has died at 82 years old. Music critics call Brian Wilson one of the world's most influential artists, inspiring summertime anthems such as Good Vibrations, California Girls, and I Get Around.
I get around, I get around, yeah, get around, I get around, I get around, get around, I'm getting bugged driving up and down the same old strip. I gotta find a new place where the kids are.
Certainly highly influential, and many artists have followed suit. Let's get some of your emails right now. Lots more comments, both on forestry and on youth jobs. Kelly writes us, my child is 22 and cannot find a job. There seems to be an underlying value that young people put on their time that is not congruent with the wages offered. I found that what I thought was a great summer job for her a few years ago, she lived at home with no big expenses. However, she did not want to even bother applying. The reason was it didn't pay well enough. Minimum wage was not worth her time, and doesn't want to do retail or food. And now 2 or 3 years later, she has no experience and is finding it hard to get any experience. I'm not sure what I would have done differently. How do you get students to understand sometimes you have to pay your dues? Oh, sorry that you've experienced that, Kay. Thank you so much for your thoughts. BC Today at cbc.ca. And all the best to your child who's 22. I hope they find the work that they're looking for.